morning, everybody. So yesterday a colleague called me up and had a marketing question, and the marketing question was, how often do you post to social media? And in the conversation, he was getting feedback that it should be two to three times a week, once a day, twice a day. And he called me because I'm more of the 8 to 15 times a day kind of guy. So let's talk about that for a minute. One is the recommendations of people on 1 to 3 is based upon their worldview. You have to understand that either they're lazy and don't want to do it more, or they do not understand, I hate to use this term, the platform. So let's use the highway. Right now I'm driving down Highway 75. I just passed the mile marker, which is now mile marker 187. By the time I get to the next mile marker, there'll be different trees, there'll be different signs, there'll be different cars. Your device and the platforms you're on within the device are on a scroll. They're constantly changing because the person who's staring at it has multiple followers, not just you. It's not as if when you pick up your phone as a viewer, you only have one friend or one page that you follow. You're following literally thousands of people, and the platform owners are hitting you with marketing data based upon your views, based upon your likes, based upon where you go, because that device has built-in tracking tools. It's called metadata. It's built in. It's not something you can turn on or turn off. They know where you go every day. They know what time you turn your phone on. Hell, they know based upon your watch what your heart rates are, what your blood pressure are, what your, whether you go into afibrillation. They know all that data now because you've given it to them. As an ex-soldier, I can tell you that these technology platforms and these tools are the greatest intel collector on the planet, and we've created it. Now, that's not me growing into my tinfoil hat. That is a fact. When you conduct intel operations, you study information. You study where people go. You study vehicle profiles. You study bumpers. In 1991, at my base, we had access to satellites, and we could read the identifying marks on the bumpers of vehicles in 1991. Trust me, my friends, it's a whole lot better now. Now back to social media posting. You need to post that many times because the scroll is constantly moving. And that when somebody hops on their device is different. Today, this morning when I woke up at 5, I had an email from YouTube that showed weekly progress. And I didn't just look at likes and I didn't just look at views. I always go into the metadata. The audience, where they come from, the gender, male versus female, the times of day that people look. Oh, by the way, that rolling scroll, not all your followers and not all your viewers are in the same time zone. They're not. Mine are in Europe, mine are in Asia, mine are in Africa, mine are in the Caribbean, mine are in the 3 different time zones or 4 different time zones that exist in the United States. So if you're only going to post once a day and it's midnight in the UK and you're trying to target an E2 investor, it is a massive mistake to post at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's 8 o'clock at night there, and they may be not on their devices. They may be going to bed. So the idea, just focused on the functionality of how the consumer uses their tool and how the behavior patterns of the consumers are, that you only post once or 3 times a week is monumentally stupid. It demonstrates a lack of understanding of how consumers operate on the other side. And that is a common problem in all marketing. We conduct marketing based upon our views, not the views of the consumer. It takes a special ability, a cognition, to be able to look at people and not judge, but understand their behaviors and to manage your marketing against what they do, not what you do. Your opinion, as in most things, does not matter. Second topic. So I'm listening to a podcast this morning by a gentleman by the name of Sean Ryan. He's probably not everybody's cup of tea, but the person he was interviewing was a 1-star general, former stealth bomber pilot, who, by the way, once you hit field grade or senior level colonel and general, you really don't fly that much. But this gentleman worked National Security Council on the intel side, and the topic was TikTok and how TikTok functions as a tool of China. And again, not putting your tinfoil hat on, but you have to admire the genius of the messaging of these platforms and how they are being used by companies, by marketing companies, by individual brands, and by governments to message. That is nothing new. That has gone on since before the beginning of time. Politicians are elected based upon the whims of the people. And these platforms are now the newspaper of old. If you go back to the founding of our country, pamphlets. Ben Franklin was notorious. Alexander Hamilton wrote some anonymous pamphlets. The Silas Gooddeed or good whatever pamphlets. Hamilton wrote a number of pamphlets. The Federalist Papers themselves were pamphlets that went out because there was no TV, there was no radio. They distributed thoughts and ideas through the medium that people consumed, and today the medium is now these devices. And we as business people need to go where people, as my priest likes to say at church, we need to go where the people are. And the people now, right, wrong, or indifferent, are residing on these platforms. So me as a 54-year-old needs to target for tomorrow's customers where they are in their 30s. So is a 30-year-old on Instagram or is a 30-year-old on LinkedIn? I had a conversation with someone yesterday that he was doing a lot of social media, but it was all on LinkedIn. And I looked at his listings and I said, they're all under $500,000. These are all small businesses, right? He said, yeah. I said, you really think your customers or the buyers of these types of businesses, pubs and coffee shops, are going to reside on LinkedIn? He said, well, probably not. And I made a point. I said, you're putting them on LinkedIn because you come from the corporate world. The buyers and the sellers of the businesses you have are on Facebook. So you have to understand who your customer is. And then I told him, these tools, this is going back to my old military days, and I had a little discussion that, these tools are great intelligence sources. Think about it. If you're a small business owner, you own a cafe, you probably never took a marketing course, but people are on social media. You probably had a Facebook account. So what do? You go in there and you create a business Facebook account. And that business Facebook account is tied to your personal page. And your personal page has your phone number, because that's what you have to do to set up the account. And it has your personal email. Why? Because that's what you have to do to set up your account. So if you're a targeter, think about every time you go on a sales call. If you ever had any professional sales training, you were told when you walk into that call, scan the room. Scan the room, look for sports memorabilia, look for pictures of children, look for things that indicate the interest of the person you're trying to sell so that you can build a relationship. In the Intel world, we called that cultivating an asset. How's that for deviance? Cultivating an asset. And when you cultivate an asset, it's not for that right then and there transaction. It's sometimes long term. To give you a movie analogy, there's a scene in the first Godfather where Enzo the baker, or not Enzo, but the original baker for the wedding comes in and asks the Godfather, to take care of a problem. And then there's an undertaker that comes in that asks for to take care of a problem. And in both cases, the Godfather says, I'm going to do this favor, but may have to call for a favor from you someday. It may never happen. What the Godfather do? He cultivated an asset in a relationship by giving and creating a feeling of reciprocity. That's long-term sales. But back to social media. You can carve out, if you're smart, and identify things about your customers that they don't necessarily intend for you to know. But you can find out what church they go to. You can find out what they like. You can find out their political interests. I was in a lawyer's office yesterday, and in the closing room, there was a bunch of history books, and then there was political buttons on the walls. And then I went to his office, and behind his office was a picture of the Obama inauguration. And I thought to myself, do I poke the bear? And I gently poked the bear by saying, hey, I saw you had all the history books. He said, I'm a history major. I said, so was I. I said, what do you like to talk about? He's talked about how he liked military history. I said, well, did you know I was an officer and I spent time in Normandy? And, we talked about some battles, and I noticed some of the same books that he and I read. Was building a relationship. And then I tiptoed into the political arena, because everyone knows where I sit. And I said, what do you think of what's happening in New York? And he went off on a tirade about how Trump should go to jail. And I said, it's interesting. What do you think about Kennedy? And he went off and said he's a lunatic. And I said, really? Because I don't really think he's a lunatic. I said, I kind of like the guy. And he started telling me about all these conspiracy theories. I said, well, what conspiracy theories? So he hopped on the internet and he went to a New York Times page, because I was seeing the screen, and he was literally quoting me the conspiracy theories. And I said, but not the pharmacology one, right? Not the Fauci thing. He goes, well, no, that's probably correct. I said, but you believe the other ones. I said, what's your source? He said, the New York Times. I said, okay, cool, gotcha, understand. I said, I'll have to do some more research. I didn't go there, but think about that. You're sitting in a room and you could observe a great deal about a person and their likes and dislikes just by what they display. The internet allows you to do that in the privacy of your home or your office, and everybody's giving you that information. So, back to the original premise. Post a lot, because the feed isn't static, and your consumers aren't static. They're on a wheel. Be observant. Data is powerful. You have to be the Saudi Arabia of data in your business. Love to hear your opinions.